when the police decide to turn on the... Oh my god, they're coming for me.
Oh my god.
We're on the street. Dan's teeth are fake.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie, and today we are back with another Dun Dun Mukbang. Guys, I have decided to be the best cousin in the entire world.
You say that every video.
Because okay, do you agree I'm the best cousin?
Yeah, I love free food.
He's like, there is a gun under the table, guys. Please. I love free food. I decided today I'm going to be the best cousin, and instead of doing like a David Dobrik type of vlog of, you know, just kind of like taking you to Vegas, taking you to all these places, I thought I would bring all of these places to you. Wow. Today, we go in international bits with McDonald's. So I'm super excited because McDonald's came out with like some new thing where they're doing like all these international stuff on the international menu. So that means you could get this worldwide at any of your McDonald's. I'm looking at my phone because I got all the details. So here we have on this side is the tomato mozzarella chicken crispy sandwich from Canada. This one is another crispy tomato mozzarella chicken sandwich from Canada. We also have the double grand McExtreme bacon burger from Spain. We've got another tomato mozzarella grilled chicken sandwich from Canada. This one is the grand McExtreme bacon burger from Spain. We've got 3 orders of the cheesy bacon fries, and they originated in Australia. And then we've got 2 of the stroopwafel McFlurries from the Netherlands. And these are all places I've never visited. So today is the day where I just take on the world.
Are these the most popular items, or
I don't
why
know.
did they choose them?
You know, because we were talking about this in the car. We were saying like, why didn't they add any like items from the Korean menu or Chinese menu? Yeah. But I think these are more like, they taste more easily palatable, I think.
I don't know.
If I went to a McDonald's in the States and I saw a bulgogi burger, I'd be like, the fuck?
But like, I want to taste more exotic taste.
Like unique.
Oh, you
so
like
maybe,
that exotic. Well, I got 100% kimchi right here.
I eat a lot of kimchi, so.
Honey! Yeah. Before we get started, I just want to give a massive shout out and thank you for our sponsors of today's video, which is Lumerit. I'm super excited to be working with them again because every time I work with Lumerit, I get so many DMs, I get so many comments in the comment section saying, listen, Stephanie, I did it. I pulled the trigger, I tested out Lumerit, and I completely fell in love. If you guys have never heard of Lumerit, this is what they do. I know a lot of you guys are thinking about going to college. We're at the age where maybe you want to finish college, or maybe you stop going to college and you're like, for whatever reason, it's time to go back. But a lot of people know that college these days, they're very, very pricey. It's expensive, and sometimes we all can't afford that. Or sometimes maybe you want to save a little bit. It's not even about the money. Maybe you want extra money for some food. Well, Lumerit's got you. So make sure to click the link in the description, and essentially what you do through that link is to enter in your information, tell them what kind of degree you want, where you want to get your degree, and how long you have to get your degree. And they'll tell you exactly the cost that it's going to be. It's pretty much like a breakdown of your college journey. They even tell you, hey, don't even take these classes because they won't even help you get your degree, so it'll be wasted time and money. From there, this is all free at this point. From there, if you decide, I love Lumerit and I love what they're doing for me, you can actually take their online courses, which are all accredited college courses through Lumerit, which means you're not paying like the overhead classroom fees, the professor fees, you know, all of that, and the textbooks are included, and so it's just super amazing. Then you can actually take these accredited credits and transfer them to virtually any college of your choosing. I mean, I couldn't think of a college that wasn't on the big list of colleges. Like, I'm talking your major schools, UGA, UCLA, Arizona State University, Purdue. Like, there's so many colleges on there that take these credits, and this will save you a lot of time, a lot of heartache, and a lot of student debt loans, and you can graduate college quicker and for a lot cheaper. So make sure to check out our friends at Lumerit because they're helping a lot of good fanny packers out here. So thank you, Lumerit, for sponsoring today's video, and let's get into it. Yes. And then where's the grilled? Yeah, I want the grilled. I'm so sorry, guys.
That's fine.
Okay,
I know you guys don't even care about the grilled,
Yeah.
but everywhere I go, I always get a grilled chicken sandwich, and that's how I rate my fast food restaurants. Do you like the fish fillet?
It's too quick.
What does that
I need to get like 2 or 3.
Yeah, I need to get 2.
It's too small.
Have you done a McDonald's mukbang on your channel?
Yeah, but it was like a little bit because my teeth.
Oh yeah, when you got punched in the face. Okay, sorry. Okay,
Wait,
sorry.
so what's the news on your teeth?
So
Wow.
at the end of the summer, they'll take out my wire and I'll be good.
So, are your teeth are okay? They're still...
Oh, right now I'm good. Yeah.
Oh, why did I hear somebody say it's not your real teeth?
No, it's my real teeth.
Who are you hearing this from?
Yeah.
You know?
No.
Who?
You got some gossipy aunties.
Word on the street is
My dad. That's probably where he's getting all this false information right now.
word on the street is Daniel's teeth are fake.
Okay. So first of all, I was thinking Canada, that's our neighbor.
Can I try a
It's
bite?
probably not going to be a crazy difference. It's probably going to taste like anything on the American McDonald's menu, but let me tell you, sis, it's actually really good. I don't know what this is. It's like the sauce is so different. Wait. Now you're making me like I gotta now.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
What is
Okay.
that?
This is the double version. You can take one of those. Oh my god.
Why?
Where's
What's
this
so
from?
special?
Spain.
Oh.
These fries are amazing.
But you know, we had these fries before.
These
But
are
I think
so-
they were like the Americanized one. I don't know what it was.
These are the cheese are so well spreaded. Oh, this is so much better. There's a lot more bacon bits in here too. I don't know. These are
They were
amazing.
generous. Honey, try this. Take a bite of mine, and then I'll go into the double too.
Serious question though. You like this better or In-N-Out?
In-N-Out. You like this better than In-N-Out?
Oh, this is tough.
This is actually, honey, please take a bite of this.
I
I
will,
can't
I
pressure
will.
you enough. Wow.
I get it now. I get it why they chose these items.
They don't sound that good. Like when I hear these things, I'm like, they sound like they've already been on the menu forever, sis, you know? They don't sound crazy unique, but wow, it tastes different.
Is this a limited time thing?
I think it's for...
Oh, it said it on the menu.
What?
Limited time, yeah.
Oh. Very good.
So good. Oh my goodness. So,
I'm gonna try some of this.
I don't even know where to begin. I'm gonna take a bite of the crispy one, guys.
Oh my
Does
god.
this one look good?
Holy cow.
Really?
Try it. Is that one good too? Holy cow, this is so good.
Even the chicken tastes like Canadian. You know? I don't even know. You like it?
Wow.
What did you just have?
This.
The flavor? Yeah, it's so good.
Whoa. Whoa, Netherlands, what's good? What's poppin', bitch? Because your McFlurries, I'm moving.
Holy cow.
I honestly didn't think it would be good because, no offense, I don't know what the word means, but it's called stroopwafel. And I'm like, that sounds like strep throat, but it's stroopwafel? I don't know what it means. I'm sure it means something beautiful. Oh, it's probably a candy. Because it tastes like caramel, like a waffle candy. And then they're like, no, it's not. Everyone, you know what I realized in my entire lifetime? There's one thing that Stephanie Sue absolutely can never do. Like other things, if I work really hard, maybe I can do it mediocrely, but I can maybe still do it. One thing I absolutely suck at is educated guesses. I feel like every time I make an educated guess, I just sound uneducated as fuck. Okay? So with that being said, we're about to get a little bit serious. Since we had fun with the food, since we've tasted a little bit of everything, this case today has been so highly requested for the past, I don't know how many weeks, and I've been putting it off. I have actually heard about this case way before the Netflix docuseries even came out. Well, it's not really a docuseries, it's kind of like more of I would consider it more in the drama category. I'm not gonna go into like all of the little details of that docuseries because I highly recommend go seeing it. It's called When They See Us, and it's very, very touching and very, very moving, but I've decided today we are going to cover the Central Park 5 case. This case is completely doused and riddled with, I personally believe, corruption, and everybody can agree that it's just a lot of racism in this case, right? And these are very controversial topics, and I am a very uneducated sister, and I'm trying to be more educated, and I'm trying my best, and so please let me know in the comments if I get any little thing wrong. Like, I want to know, and I'm sure everybody else watching this wants to know, but I try to do my best. I watch watched different articles, I've watched different docu-series on this. I've tried to get everybody's perspective so it didn't seem like, you know, it's just all from one side or like one person. So hopefully this is a good roundup of all the information that I read. So let's get started. This case is very intense. So this case actually took place in New York City, and Central Park, if you guys have never been to New York City or have never heard of New York, the Central Park in New York, I know everybody's heard of New York City. Okay, you know what, guys?
I've been there.
You've been to Central Park? Did you like it?
Yeah.
It's crazy because New York City is like all buildings, as city as it gets in the US, you know? And then they randomly have this giant block of just a park in the middle of the city, and it's just filled with like a reservoir, trees, hiking trails. Like it's such a weird thing, and people always go because they feel like it's the center of the universe there, because you sit there, you see this nature, but you literally look up and there's skyscrapers all around you. And so it's like this very interesting feeling. Like I would probably confidently say there's no other park like Central Park.
Yeah. The most bougie park for sure.
Which one's y'all's favorite so far?
Huh. Man, I'm so like,
I gotta say,
this is so good.
the fries.
The fries are
are
good.
so good.
Honey.
I haven't even tried this yet.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, tell us.
So this will be equivalent to the double from In-N-Out.
Yeah.
His
just
eyes
rolled
are rolling back. Is that good? Oh, he's
still thinking.
testing it, you know?
Okay.
There's a lot of anticipation. You better not just say it's good.
Describe it.
It's good. You know, it's a lot more beefy. Like you can taste, you know how McDonald's always tastes more processed, but this I taste the beef in there. I wouldn't say it's better than In-N-Out, but it's a lot better than like what we usually eat from McDonald's.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree.
So this all starts in the late 80s. So this is about a 30-year-old case. And it recently just, I mean, this is crazy. Imagine, like the premise of this case, I feel like there should be no formal introduction, but essentially it's 5 boys went to Central Park, and that changed their lives forever, for the worse. They were in jail for so much of their life. And some of them, the majority of their life, they spent it in jail because of that one night in Central Park. Now, most people, I would say, agree that they were incorrectly charged. And so this is about to get really crazy. And to just kind of understand like why that would happen, I think a lot of the time like this is not okay by any means, but sometimes when you're in 2019, you're like, how could that have even happened? Like it just doesn't even make sense how this is like a true crime story. Like this sounds like just a movie, right?
Yeah.
And so this happened in the late 80s in New York City, and essentially that time was such a weird time. Like there was violent crime everywhere. People were getting mugged, people were getting robbed. Like this would be the time where your parents would say, you are never going to New York City, because it's just that scary of a place at the time. And mainly because there was one thing, well there was 2 things on the rise, and it's just going to show you how crazy it is. So the first thing on the rise in New York City in the late 80s was the rise of the drug crack.
It's called crack.
You never heard of crack? I don't know what just happened.
Yeah, I don't know either. Okay? Here, you want to take this half that you...
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, this one?
This one's so good.
It's really good.
And so this drug makes people violent. This drug makes people very angry. And this caused the New York City homicide rate to shoot through the roof. You've got high addiction rates, so people are doing anything, whether it means crime, whether it means mugging people, robbing people, to get their hands on some more crack once they've started. Now, here's the crazy thing. Crack was mainly prevalent and was mainly going rampant in poorer cities, like poorer parts of New York City. During this time, the other thing that was blooming and that was on the rise, other than crack, was Wall Street. Wall Street was banging in the 80s. Late 80s, it was taking off. Everybody was making money. This was around the time that Donald Trump came to be about, and he's going to be prevalent in this story too, because he is involved. He inserted himself again in places that just don't make sense, and he decided he's going to take a stance on Central Park 5 during the time, and even till today he takes a stance on it. And it's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Anyways, I don't want to get political. I'm getting riled up.
Very political, bitch.
I'm getting riled up, I'm sorry. Okay. I digress. And so during this time, Trump was getting interviewed by people. Like, this was like, everyone was obsessed with wealth. Everyone wanted to talk to wealthy people. Like, how did you acquire? And then, like, it was so ironic because at one point, one of the interviews during that time, someone was asking Trump while they were flying over in a helicopter over Central Park if he was going to buy and develop Central Park. And he said, no, I don't think they should let me in Central Park. And then the little interview lady was like, oh, we all sighed a sigh of relief, you know, because everybody loves Central Park and they would hate for it to become overridden by skyscrapers, right? Yeah. And so you have like this huge juxtaposition. You've got like the rich class and the poor class, and the gap in between is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, okay? And Central Park was kind of like the metaphorical divide. So a lot of the times, it's not just like, I mean, because you have like the Upper East Side, you have the Upper West Side, but you also have a lot of different nice areas being divided from the nice areas by this park. And so during the day, people gathered, they had horse carriage rides, all of that jazz. But at night, typically people avoided Central Park.
Really? Why is that?
It's not like a small little city park, like a dog park where you've got lamps everywhere. There are lamps, there are guided paths, but it's definitely still dark, you know? It's kind of like going to the woods. No matter where you live, you're not going to be like, let me just go to the woods every night.
Yeah. Is it still like that today, you think?
Oh, yeah.
Really? Central Park?
I think anywhere with trees is dangerous.
But I don't know. I would think New York, Central Park. I don't know.
So good. So one thing you also have to realize is that New York City is like one of those places where when the first time I went, I was so confused because I just thought New York City is New York City, right? But I guess it's almost like LA and every other city where inside of New York City, you've got the Upper East Side, Upper West Side, you've got Harlem, you've got all these different places, and each different neighborhood has, you know, it's either very, very affluent, or sometimes it's more middle class people live there, or sometimes it's lower class that lives there. And this is how bad racial tensions were. If you were a black person or any other minority, whether it be Hispanic or black, I don't know about Asians, I should know this, but if you were to walk into a very, very affluent neighborhood or just the wrong neighborhood and you don't even know, like maybe your navigation took you a wrong way and you walked in there by yourself, you could get mobbed by groups of people because they thought you were a criminal right off the bat. And it's like, bro, my navigation fucked. Siri don't know what she's doing. This is not I didn't even do anything, you know?
This was back then, though.
Yeah, this was in the 80s. And so it was massive. April 19th of 1989, there was a woman by the name of Trisha, and Trisha actually didn't reveal her identity throughout the trial, throughout any of this. She was always known as kind of like an anonymous. Her identity was kept hidden. And then recently, like not too long ago, she came out with a book saying, I was the Central Park jogger. And this was just such an intense case. So essentially what happened to Trisha was she's an investment banker and she works for Salomon Brothers. And she loves living in New York City and she loves her job, okay? So just to put everything into perspective, investment banker, highly coveted position, she's a beautiful white woman, you know? All of these things, okay? She's young at the time and she loves jogging. So she gets off of work at around 8 p.m. every night, and she says around 3 to 5 times a week she'll go into Central Park and take the guided path and just run through it from this specific entrance, exit that way, and then head back, right? Yep. And so she kind of had for her own jogging pants. She didn't stray too far from the trail. She didn't, like, you know, go into the reservoir. She didn't do anything risky, you know? Yep. She just went and she jogged at night. And this was one of those days, April 19th, when she decided to do just that. So she puts on her leggings, she enters into Central Park, and around this time, the police were getting massive amounts of calls. The police were getting bombarded, actually. Like, not just police that were on call duty, police that were patrolling different areas near Central Park, police stations were getting people coming in, and they were just saying, listen, someone is viciously attacking joggers at Central Park right now. And the police are like, what are you talking about? And they're saying, like, listen, there's 30 to 50 teenage kids just walked into Central Park at a different entrance, the opposite, not the opposite, but like very far from where Trisha was, but they would eventually kind of somehow be in similar areas, right? Yeah. They're saying that they entered in through that entrance, and anybody who walked by, they were beating them.
30 to 50 people?
30 to 50 teenagers.
Oh, why?
Teenagers.
From a school?
I guess, I don't know if it was from the same school.
Or
a lot of them didn't even know each other, because imagine 50 teenagers, you don't know all 50 of them. You just have a group of friends who know some people in the group.
Not a gang or anything? Wow. That's really strange.
They all gathered. and they started walking. Now, a lot of them said, like, it wasn't even one of those things that was planned. It's not like, hey, everybody meet up at this time, you know, meet me outside, catch me outside and I'll fight you. It wasn't anything like that. It was honestly like you were walking down, you got pizza with your friends, and they were saying like, oh, hey, you want to just join them? Like, I know Timmy from that group. And they were like, yeah, whatever, let's go to Central Park. And to give you an example of the things that were done is that there were 50 kids. They weren't all involved in beating someone. And so the way that a lot of people described it and the way that a lot of these people inside of this group described it was like, it's almost like watching a train wreck. Like you're hanging out with your friend. They're like, hey, let's go hang out with my friend Jimmy. I know Jimmy, right? You walk in this big group of people and you see maybe 10 of your 50 group of people beating someone up. You might not partake in the beating, but you might be like, as a little 13, 14, 15-year-old dude, you might be like, whoa. You might not call 911. You might not even walk away. You might not partake in the beating, but you probably might watch, right? And so one of the cases was there was an old man jogging by and he had like a paper bag in his hand and they took that from him and they beat him up. Another case was there was a couple, I don't know if they were dating at the time, but it was Patty and Gary and they were on a tandem bike, which is a two-person bike, and they were riding on by, and Patty remembers vividly thinking like, oh, like I wonder why all of these kids are out at this time, you know? Like I wonder if something happened and they're watching something happen. But no, one of the kids was saying someone in the group had yelled, get him! And like 10, 15 of them rushed over and were just trying to pull him down, grabbing at them, and they eventually rode away and they got away. And they were just so shook up, they were so scared, and this led on for multiple people. I mean, there was this one man who was found beaten in the face with a pipe. And it looked like the police were saying it looked like he had been dunked into a bucket of blood when they found him. Jeez. Like he had been pretty badly beaten. And so the police are frantic. They're trying to figure out where this group is. And also when you have a group like this, you also have to remember that the police show up, it's going to be chaotic. Like the police have to organize. Like I know a lot of questions are like, why didn't the police just go immediately after the first call? But it's like if you get a group of 50 kids, police car, everybody scatters. What are the chances you'll catch any of them?
So what's their plan?
Just get a bunch of coordinated police in different blocks, you know, and then just try to catch them as they run.
Them?
Yeah, it's like, you know, they're going to run. They're not just going to be like, oh shit, let's just all wait in a line and get handcuffed, you know? I mean, nobody would do that.
So these all happened without a reason? But they didn't kill anybody, right?
I also watched a lot of documentaries, not just like the Netflix docuseries. They brought in like people who were just explaining the way that they saw things, right? And a lot of people who had law enforcement like kind of knocked down and they knew what was going to happen to these guys. They said whoever was caught in that group of 30 to 50 kids that night, they probably would have gotten sentenced in family court. They probably would have been released that night. Like, yes, they beat people up. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's bad. But it's nothing like you're not going to keep this 15-year-old in jail for years and years because he beat some people up in Central Park. You're going to give them a slap on the wrist and say, do that again, and you'll see what happens. And so then the police show up, and they start running, right? And all of these police officers are running after them in the car, by foot, like they're doing everything that they can. And in the end, they essentially somehow, some way, finesse their way, because some of them were like meeting other people. It's complicated, okay? Dude, this is a long story, so I'm kind of going over like all the in-depth details. Like if you guys want to watch the Netflix docuseries, it's like 6 hours long. In the end, they catch 5 boys, okay? Now,
out of everybody.
Yeah, out of everyone. Now, when they caught these 5 boys, essentially everyone was saying the same thing. Okay, family court, this is what's going to happen. And everything changed when they found Trisha. They found Trisha at around, I think it was 12:30 in the morning, and another jogger, another passerby had found her, and she was kind of hidden off the path in like a little hill type of thing, like a ravine, and like she was covered in dirt, covered in just, oh my god, like the extent of her injuries, everyone thought she was gonna die. She was brought in to the New York City hospital, like one of the better ones, and everyone was saying, we think she's gonna die.
What kind of injury?
This is gonna get really graphic. One of the main injuries that she talked about as well is that whoever did this to her, they had beat her left skull in with such impact and force that her left eyeball exploded inside of her skull.
Yo.
Her face was sunken in. She lost 75 to 80% of her bodily blood. She was near death. I mean, whoever did this to her left her to die. She had several deep skull lacerations, and the evidence of sexual trauma was very, very prevalent. So whoever did this to her also sexually assaulted her, and then beat her, and then left her for dead. And she was comatose for, I think, 12 days. And when she woke up, she couldn't eat, talk, walk, nothing. on her own.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
The doctors who were at the hospital that night, they were saying, like, they've seen trauma. I mean, these are doctors that work in the emergency room. Like, they've seen trauma. You know, car accidents happen, this happens. They've seen it all. But they said that she wasn't even a human. Her body eventually became so swollen from all the bruising and the trauma that she was just, like, everything was swollen. Like, you could not be like, hey, that's a human in that bed right there, you know? You would be like, what the hell is in that bed, you know? There are so many victims in this case, but I think a lot of people forget about Trisha because she is still a huge victim in this entire scenario, right?
Of course.
This is what happened to her. It's very graphic. And so continuing on, when they found her, everything changed. At this point, this was just going to be a little riled up local news of, oh my God, Central Park joggers, y'all gotta be careful, because especially at this time, like I said, violent crime was like uproaring. Like everybody was partaking in violent crime. So when you have stories like, oh, this person killed this person for some crack, like you're not gonna really be like, oh my God, a jogger was like punched in his face. And so they bring in these 5 boys. They were arrested. The police find out about Trisha, and you know what? They're upset because the police are pretty much absolutely certain that these boys did it. Now, do I believe that every single police in that police department like had no doubt in their heart? Absolutely not. I know multiple of them were probably sitting there like, could these boys really have done it? But here's the crazy thing. There was so much pressure. I mean, you're talking about a racially charged city at the time. You're talking about a white woman who is an investment banker. You need to solve this case. As a police department, people would, oh my God, New York City would have just been up in flames if they did not solve this case. Like, shit happens in the world all the time. If it happens in Beverly Hills, it's hysteria. That's the type of vibe. So this happens. In custody right now, they have 5 boys, and they're ranging from the ages of 14 to 15 years old, so they are super minors, okay? They're not even just minors, they're like super minors. And so then they had, in all of their bookings, they had Kevin, they had Raymond, they had Antron, they had Corey, they also had Yusuf. These kids, they didn't have their parents there. They weren't of a legal age where they could just go around and talking to the police. Like, you guys always hear, you guys watch Law and Order, and you know that the police need to have the parents present. Right. Now, this is where the entire case of Central Park 5 becomes a thing. These boys, they honestly didn't know what kind of trouble they were in, and the police didn't let them know. The police originally were like, listen, we just need to talk to you about a couple things and then you'll be out your way, right? They find out about Trisha, they find out all these things, and the police do this thing where they lie to a lot of people. They'll say, hey, I have evidence, I have your DNA, I have this, I have that, I know you did this. And so essentially they needed to solve the case. They had 5 boys in custody. They were black.
Wow.
And like a lot of people were saying at the time, like, I'm not sure if this was exactly the thoughts of every single police officer during that time or like what happened, but a lot of people were just saying in the 80s, people weren't going to be sad if you took another black or Hispanic kid off the street. Wow. Like, it wouldn't have been an uproar, which that in itself is like a disgusting statement, but like that's what a lot of people are saying, like that's the harsh reality of what the time was, you know? Some people might even say that's still happening today. This seemed like a very easy choice, maybe even a smart choice. And so the police started interrogating them for lengthy times. So most of the kids went under 7+ hours of interrogation that were not recorded, that weren't even written down, which is very, very strange. So most police interrogations, like, you've got to have some sort of record of it, and you should not be talking to kids for 7+ hours, okay? They were forced to not use the restroom. They weren't given any water or food. That's a long time. And also think about the time that it was, and also think about 14 to 15-year-old kids. Like, sometimes you think about it like the age that you are now. If you're older and you're like, it doesn't sound too bad, right? But like 14 and 15, like, I couldn't sit still for like 2 minutes. Like, you better believe when I'm 15, I'm like jumping up and down, like ready to go to the next room. You could hear the police beating the kid and like slamming on the tables, threatening them. They would come into your room and say, you heard that, right? You're next. So spill the tea, pretty much.
You can't do that though.
No, you can't. I'm sorry. Wow. I know I'm not like super ecstatic right now, but I don't think anyone is.
The story's kind of serious.
It even gets grayer because one of them actually said, they just kept asking me questions, like, even though I was supposed to have my parents present. And the police were like, well, you actually gave me a fake ID that said you were 16 years old. You should have given me your real ID and told me you were 15 then, because we thought you were 16. Now, I know you have, why does it matter? It's only a year difference. But in the state of New York, it's actually illegal to interrogate a 16-year-old without their parents present. And so then the parents parents eventually, they start rolling in. Now, at this time, even to this point, everybody is thinking that this is a light situation. Everybody's saying, the police are telling the parents, hey, listen, we know your kid's a good kid. He has no criminal record, which, by the way, all 5 of them didn't have a criminal record. We just need to get some things solved out. You guys should be out in no time, right? So the parents are really taking this in a relaxed, in a chill way. And like the way that the police manipulated the situation with the parents is almost like when I tell you, hey, like you're gonna be totally fine, don't worry about it, then you feel like you want to help me, you know? Like they're like, okay, you know what, the police know my son's not guilty, so why don't I just help the police out? We can get out of here quicker. We're on the same team.
Do they know who's the officer? The one that were interrogating them and
yeah,
the head of... Okay.
Yeah, oh, we'll get into that. Like the head prosecutor and another prosecutor, or the district attorney that was involved in this case, they had to quit their jobs today because of the Netflix documentary.
Just quitting jobs. That's too late. They don't get in any trouble.
And so what they've decided is, like, they brought up to the kids, we know about Trisha. We know that you raped this woman, right? But we don't think it's you. Maybe you just held her down. Maybe you just beat her up. Maybe you didn't do that part, right? And they were just trying to turn it on each other. And they pretty much convinced the kids and the parents of the kids, that hey, if your kid helps us bring down this person because we think this kid is the guilty one, you guys can go. And they did that to every kid, and they all started ratting each other out. But in the process, you rat yourself out. So they were all saying, you know, Kevin did that, but all I did was hold her arm down. So it's like they're trying to minimize their participation while implicating the others. But in the state of New York and in most people's eyes, being involved, if I hold you down and something happens to you, I might as well have done that because it's the same in the court of New York, right? Like they don't consider it any less evil. They say you are the same as the evil person. And this is when the police decide to turn on the cameras. Oh my God, they're coming for me.
Oh my God.
And they tape their confessions. They don't tape the 7+ hours that they were held, they were interrogated, that they were deprived of food and water. But the confession, they turn on the cameras, and the kids, I mean, I watched part of it. I couldn't even watch most of it because the kid, he just was desperate. There was a kid named Corey too, and he kept changing his story. The police were like, why are you changing your story? And he's, no, I just remembered, you know, I just remembered. Maybe I didn't remember it before, I just remembered. And so it's almost like when you're a baby and you're trying to give your mom the answer she wants to hear. Like your mom keeps saying, so why'd you do it? And then you say, I don't know, I was hungry. And then she's like, no, why'd you really do it? And then you're like, I don't know what you want from me. Like, I just want to get out of here. I want to be out of this situation. Because you gotta remember, he's like 14. Cops were doing this. I mean, this is gross. And a lot of them were saying, like, you had 6, 7 cops in a room with one kid during the interrogation for hours at a time. Like, that's... You see these interrogation tapes and they pretty much confess to it, all of them. They all say it's the other person who did the actual act, but did this or did that, and it's like so gross. So they were essentially arrested, all 5 of them, and it becomes a press frenzy.
Why?
Because you have 5 young minorities who assaulted an intelligent, rich investment banker.
Now, at this time, is Trisha awakened or?
So at this time, she wasn't awake because she was in a coma for 12 days. And people really thought she was going to die. Nobody thought she was going to live. Everyone thought she was going to die. They had homicide on this case. They had sex crimes on this case. They had CSI on this case. I mean, so many people were assigned to this case. Like, they did a study of all of the news that were printed during those days. Out of 250 random news samples, only 12 of 250 news samples used the word allegedly when talking about these boys. There had been no trial yet. They had just been arrested. That they're innocent till proven guilty. But how does it fly that only 12 of these prints said the word allegedly? But sometimes they would insert the word gangs, and a lot of the times they would insert the words like wolf pack. A lot of psychologists were saying that sometimes when you call people, especially of minorities, a wolf pack, it's almost dehumanizing them in the eyes of the press. It's not like saying a group of 5 gentlemen or 5 people or 5, you know, it's like these beasts.
Do they know each other?
So some of them didn't even know each other.
Right, so these are just 5 people out of that 50 people they happen to catch. And they're just saying, okay, you are the 5 who did this.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? They found DNA. They found male DNA on Trisha because she was assaulted, and it did not match all 5 of them. Any of them.
Okay.
None of them.
Then what's
But the police are saying, oh, we're just missing that one more.
What?
Which is, I've never heard about this in any of the case. If the DNA does not match, typically the way that it works is you are not the person. But they were like, you guys are all the people, but there's probably another dude out there that we didn't catch.
I feel like they did that because of like the press.
Yeah.
Is New York police that corrupt at that time?
A lot of networks actually interviewed some of the police officers during that time, and they still stand by what they did.
What do you mean?
Because apparently they were investigated and there was no misdoing. Or at least there's no proof of it because they didn't even film the interrogations.
So they say they follow the protocol and this is their
And they're saying,
confession.
like, how can we force you to confess like that? If you're innocent, how can I say, hey, repeat these words? And you just say, I held her down.
Of course they're going to stand by their words. Otherwise they make them look
exactly. They were saying, like, a lot of people, like, there's some people whose entire job is to just analyze confession tapes because, well, during this time, nobody really knew what a coerced confession is, which means that the police make you confess just so they can get a slam dunk, okay?
Yeah.
But during this time, there wasn't really documentaries, there wasn't Netflix, there wasn't all of these, like, outlets for people to talk about. And so essentially, like, there were people who just watched these, and one of the people who said it is the first thing that you want to do when you watch a confession tape is, okay, why would an innocent person confess, right?
Yeah.
Were they under duress? Were they not given water? Were they not, you know, there's got to be something. Or maybe they are guilty. There's always that possibility.
Yes.
And then the second thing is, if you can't judge, if you can't tell, or you have no evidence of wrongdoing, you just have to look at the details. And a lot of the boys, I mean, they were contradicting their own story, the other kid's story, but also the evidence. Because one of the kids were saying, yeah, we found her on this trail, but she was actually found like half a mile away from where the body was actually left. And like one of the kids was like, yeah, so we pulled down her blue shorts, but she was wearing leggings and not blue shorts. And so it's like, doesn't even make sense. The confessional tapes were so bad. So bad.
The way that they make them confess.
Yeah, because there was a part where, you know, one of the kids was saying, like, Trisha started screaming, and, like, another one of the kids just said, shut up, bitch, and started beating her skull in. And so imagine seeing that. Like, the jurors were shocked. I mean, imagine just hearing that. Especially at the time, after all of that press, like, people are saying there's no way they're going to have an impartial jury. This happened, like, years before the trial, and this happened, like, a week after they were arrested. They were just persecuted in the press. There's no way you're going to have an impartial jury. There's no way there's going to be someone in New York City who didn't know about this, who didn't read the headlines. And none of these boys had a record at the time. It's just getting complex. They decide to go to trial because they've been arrested. There's nothing else that they can do, and they are going to try the first 3 boys, and then they're going to try 2. So it's going to be 2 separate trials, but they're all going to be pretty much bunched up. And the main evidence that the prosecutors have are these confession tapes, because the evidence doesn't really line up. Their DNA wasn't really found. There's no other like crazy witness statements. I mean, this is pretty much all there is. A lot of people are saying, like, even people who have been in court, who have dealt with this type of position in this job, they're saying confession tape is a golden ticket for prosecutors. If you have a confessional tape, typically prosecutors will win, because to see that face say those words, I mean, you can never take that back, you know? Like, it's just going to be very impossible. A lot of people are saying, like, you're talking about 5 boys who come from, you know, either middle class or very impoverished families. Like, they kind of compared it to, because the state had got the best of the best. They did not just get some average prosecutors. I mean, this was getting a national scandal. This was almost international, so they decided to get the top of the top, which is a woman by the name of Elizabeth and Linda, okay? And then another man by the name of Robert. Linda and Elizabeth. And they compared it to having the New York Yankees go up against your high school baseball team. That was the kind of lawyers that these boys were dealing with. It's not even fair game at all, whatsoever. In June of 1990 is the first trial with the first 3 boys. And the main evidence that they have is, again, the confessional tapes. Now, here's what's crazy. Because of the press, everybody just had their own opinions. You had so many people just protesting outside the courthouse house. You had people trying to get in. I mean, it was insane. So you had a lot of people who were upset, okay? Not only just race-wise, I'm sure everybody kind of agrees with this feeling in some way, shape, or form. Maybe it's city, right? Maybe you're like, ah, goddamn, they're from Atlanta. And obviously you have a whole bunch of minorities, and you also have a lot of non-minorities that are like, whoa, I think we need to look at some evidence here because it looks a little bit murky. People are trying to get revenge on the opposite race. New York City is getting dangerous because of this case. Elizabeth is one of the prosecutors.
Yeah.
She gave Trisha the option of testifying, and Trisha at this point, she was awake and she had somewhat recovered, not really, very unsteady, very slowly, but she could talk, and she said, I'm gonna testify. And what's crazy about this is that, I mean, she went through a lot. Like, she permanently lost her sense of smell, even up until today. Like, she can't smell anything. She didn't want to be known in court. She didn't want her name out there, so she was just known as, like, the jogger. And when she went up there, a lot of people were like, damn, like, this is moving. She didn't remember what happened that night, but she remembered the state that she was left in, waking up in excruciating pain. But here's the thing. Typically in trials, if you don't remember that has anything to do with the boys, nobody is arguing that this didn't happen.
Yeah.
We're arguing if these boys did it.
But she can't remember that.
Yeah, and so a lot of people are like, why did she testify? I mean, we think that she deserves a voice, you know?
So the prosecutor used that as a tool against the boys.
So essentially, like, jurors, you tell them, hey, only look at evidence, but they're still people.
Yeah.
So they're gonna see this woman. She's completely traumatized. She's emotional.
Wow.
They were convicted guilty on all counts. They were all 16 years at the time. They got 5 to 10 years in juvenile prison, and Corey was actually charged. He's the one that was flip-flopping his story a lot in the confessional tapes, and he actually got charged 5 to 15 years in adult prison. Yeah. 13 years after, trial happened, they're convicted, they were put in jail, the families are upset, the families don't believe it, and the crazy thing is, like, during this time, like, they were given chances inside of jail to say, hey, if you say that you're guilty and you show that you're remorseful, hey, I did this, hey, I messed up, I'll never do it again, then we might let you out early. But all of them said, but I didn't do it. 4 of the 5 kids are out, and they're no longer kids, obviously. They're like close to, what is it, like 30 or something?
30, yeah.
And so Corey was actually still in jail, and like I said, he was in adult prison. He ran into a man by the name of Mateus. Now, Mateus comes very important to the case, very crucial. Pay attention because it gets wild. So Mateus has been convicted of murder and serial assault. He is disgusting. He is a full-blown psychopath, and he assaults women. One of the most disgusting things I've ever heard online was the fact that he murdered a pregnant woman in front of her 2 kids. Yeah. After doing other things to her. Yeah. Disgusting. He had run into Corey both times, and for whatever reason, he said, you know what? This dude's not a bad kid. And he went to the police and he said, hey, remember the Central Park jogger?
Yeah.
That was me.
No.
And they go, what? What do you mean that was you? And he goes, yeah, it was me. They run his DNA. It was him.
What the?
After the 15 years?
When was this?
After 13 years.
What?
Corey was still in jail. And so the police at first, they were like, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't you. They didn't even run DNA. They were just like, listen, we've heard of serial killers who are like, listen, I want to take all the credit. Sometimes your victim list is 13, but you want to be bad and bougie. He explained things that weren't released to the public. So it showed that he had intimate knowledge of the crime scene. But on top of that, he actually assaulted a woman 2 days prior in Central Park. And the crazy thing is, the police look at him, they run his DNA, it's a match, and they said, we got the last one.
Oh,
are you kidding me?
God.
But then Mateus goes, no, I always commit crimes alone. Why would I want a group of people? I don't need an entourage. He's already in jail, you know? Like, why? Like, maybe he actually saw Corey and was like, he's a chill dude. I should probably admit to my crimes.
That's just crazy.
At the time, the mayor didn't want to appeal the convictions because there's no, like, just politically speaking, a lot of, like, politicians and political analysts and stuff were saying that politically, there would be no advantage of a major politician standing behind the Central Park 5. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this because of how horrendous everything has been, and this just makes it more horrendous. Before they even went to trial, Donald Trump decided to insert himself into this situation, and he said, we, as New York City people, we need to bring back capital punishment, death penalty, because these boys need to pay for their crimes.
Oh my
You're talking about 15-year-old boys. before the trial even started.
But he was just a businessman, no?
Yeah, nobody asked for his opinion. Yeah.
Right now?
Yeah, he
did.
Yeah, I mean, he thinks that he made the right conclusion at the time of the given evidence. So then the district attorney pretty much overturns the convictions and says, hey, you're no longer convicted of this crime. Corey gets released a little bit earlier than he was supposed to get released, which like, okay, whoop-de-freaking-do. You stole like 5 kids' lives. Okay, whatever, good for you. You get out of prison early. That's not good enough, you know? And so he gets released. Everybody, like nobody knows how to, like Corey's mom was saying, I don't know how he's gonna survive in this world, because when you go to prison, the rest of the world grows. We all grow. We have new people. Some of us die. Things happen, and you pretty much stay the same in prison. And so to come into this world, 15 years fast forwarded, you don't know what to do, right?
Yeah.
And so she's worried. Everybody's worried, and it's just an absolute shit show. Some people, like what people are saying is like, sure, the DA overturned their conviction. In the eyes of the law, they are not guilty for their crimes, but everyone still believed they were guilty because there was no solid evidence that they weren't involved still. Like that's the problem of this entire story, is the fact that even though Mateus is saying he did it alone, you could easily say, but maybe he didn't. And so then the 5 boys decide to sue the city of New York City, which is very common for people who are put in jail with no evidence, because you took my life. You took my ability to get a job. You took my ability to make money, all of that, right? So they sue the city. And finally, there was a woman by the name of Sarah Burns, who she was working as an attorney at one of the legal forces that were helping the 5 boys sue the city, and she decided to write a book on the 5 boys.
Shit.
But here's the crazy thing. Her dad is Ken Burns. And if you don't know who Ken Burns is, he is one of the world's most renowned documentary directors.
Oh.
And so she writes a book on them. She's so moved. She goes to her dad, and they produce a documentary and finally give these 5 boys a voice.
Which documentary is that?
Central Park 5.
That's different from the Netflix series.
No, the Netflix one is more like interpretation. It's like a drama. And now people are listening again. People are suddenly like, oh shit. Now they have voices to the names, you know.
Yeah.
Now they're getting emotionally connected to these boys. They're like, yes, their lives were stolen. And so people are backing them up. So at this time, there was a man by the name of Bill de Blasio, and he was running for governor or mayor, and he was pretty much telling everybody, like, if I win, I'm going to settle these boys' cases because they deserve anything, something. I believe he won, and he settled for $41 million. And so it gave all the 4 boys who spent 5 to 10 years in juvenile prison $7 million each, and it gave Corey, who spent like close to 15 years in adult prison, $13 million. And now they're like major advocates. Like they go and they speak at colleges. They talk about their experience. They are trying to help people who Corey donated $1 million to helping people who are wrongfully incarcerated. So like they're not just like, oh, let me take the money and chill out. They're like, let me take the money, but also let me use some of this money and like help people and like go around and be able to travel and share my story. Because I mean, there are a lot of people sitting in jail who probably shouldn't be in jail right now.
So what happened to Trisha?
I'm not saying like her life is solved and her problems are solved. Like, people are saying she's gonna have trauma, but she ran 2 New York City marathons. 2, and she loved jogging. And she couldn't walk again. You know, she learned to walk again. She is actually an advocate too, you know, for victims and for also like brain trauma, like how to survive and like how to support people through that process. And then after the Netflix series came out, the 2 lead prosecutors, who I didn't really go into too much detail about them just because it gets really crazy. Essentially, like they had a lot of doubts that the boys were innocent, but they still went in on them in court. Their sense of morality was kind of out the window. And Elizabeth, she is a part-time like a professor at Columbia Law. Linda, the other one, she had to resign from her position teaching at a college. She actually was a very successful crime author because she deals with so much crime that she started writing these fiction crime books, and she, you know, was doing really well, but her publisher dropped her. Yeah, the police department didn't get anything. Like, nothing.
So this is resurfacing today because of the Netflix series.
Yeah.
So people start talking about it again.
If Mateus didn't do anything.
Yeah, if Mateus didn't say anything, like people are saying, like he would have been, like he would have stayed in jail, and then once he was released, they would have this on their records. They wouldn't get a settlement. They wouldn't get anything. Like they wouldn't be able to do what they do now and become advocates.
That was kind of
That's really intense. I really didn't want to cover this because I'm so scared that I messed something up. I'm like getting so much anxiety that I messed something up, and like knowing me, I know that I did. So like, please let me know. I didn't do it on purpose. It's not that I don't care. I mean, this is so much information, and I tried to condense it down so that I could, you know, get the story across in a way that was efficient. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I know it's dark, but a lot of people are saying, hey, on the bright side, it's amazing to see all 6 people doing the best that they can with the circumstances that they were dealt. So that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments, have you guys seen the documentary on Netflix yet, or have you guys seen the original one that Ken and Sarah Burns did? Or which McDonald's piece would you guys like to try? Like, are you guys interested in this international menu? Like, do you like these burgers from Spain and from Canada and Australia and the Netherlands? And why don't they have a bulgogi burger?
Right.
The Korean McDonald's was so good. We went to Korea recently. So let me know in the comments. Also, make sure to check out Lou Merritt, which is linked in the description. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.